Lyra was born under the violet skies of Valora, a world filled with endless forests and glowing rivers. The Valorans, her people, were known for their delicate beauty and bright eyes, but they also carried a long history of fear. Nature on Valora was full of hidden dangers. Even their own biology sometimes turned against them, and Lyra carried within her a trait that made her both feared and pitied. From the moment she grew her first teeth, her parents noticed something strange. When she bit into food, the marks left behind burned the surface. The healers tested her saliva and made a discovery that changed her life forever. It carried a venom so powerful that it could kill any Valoran within moments. Her body produced it naturally, like a weapon she had never asked for. As she grew older, the whispers followed her. Children in her village would not hold her hand. Teachers asked her to sit alone, away from the others. Her own cousins avoided her at family gatherings. "Be careful, it's the girl with the bite," they whispered. Lyra tried to smile, tried to tell them she would never hurt anyone, but her words meant little. Fear was stronger than kindness in their hearts. Her parents loved her, but they lived in constant worry. They taught her to never touch others, to never get too close, and to always keep her mouth closed when she was nervous or angry. For Lyra, it was a lonely childhood. She dreamed of running through the glowing meadows with friends, but instead, she sat by herself and watched the others from a distance. One day, everything changed when visitors came from beyond the stars. A fleet of silver ships arrived in orbit carrying humans, the newest species to step onto Valora. The humans had joined the Galactic Union only recently, and many alien races were still trying to understand them. Rumors had spread that humans were strange, reckless, and hard to predict. They laughed loudly, argued fearlessly, and walked into dangers that would kill others. The Valorans welcomed them with caution. The council allowed the humans to explore the capital city, but only under watch. They were told of the dangers of Valoran food, the rivers filled with poisonous fish, and even the plants that released deadly spores in the air. The humans only smiled and nodded, as if they had already faced worse. Lyra watched them from afar. She had gone to the city market that day, as she often did, wandering between stalls of glowing fruits and shining fabrics. From behind the curtains of her hood, she saw the humans laughing and buying strange trinkets. One of them, a tall young man named Ethan, pointed at a bowl of bright orange fruit and asked if it was safe. The Valoran merchant hesitated before giving him a warning, but Ethan only grinned, shrugged, and handed over coins. Lyra could not understand. Why were they so fearless? Why did they not tremble at every danger? She had grown up knowing that every touch, every mistake could bring disaster. Yet here were humans who seemed to carry no fear at all. That night, when she returned home, she asked her mother about them. "Mother," Lyra said softly, "why do humans act like nothing can harm them?" Her mother looked troubled. "Because, child, their world is a place of danger. They were born where storms destroy cities, where beasts hunt even in daylight, where the very air carries sickness. To live, they had to grow strong. Danger is not strange to them. It is their way of life." Lyra sat in silence, thinking about that. For the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope. If humans were not afraid of danger, would they also not be afraid of her? The next day, she returned to the city. This time, she stood closer, hiding behind a tall pillar as the humans walked past. Ethan and his companions were exploring the fountains at the city square, laughing at how the water glowed blue under the sunlight. One of the humans splashed another, and the Valoran guards scolded them quickly. But still they laughed. Lyra felt her lips curve into a small smile, yet her peace did not last. A group of Valoran youths noticed her standing near the pillar. They were the same bullies who had tormented her since childhood. One of them pointed and whispered loudly, "Look, it's the girl with the deadly mouth." The others laughed. They approached her, blocking her way. "What are you doing here, cursed child?" One of them sneered. "Hoping to find a friend, or maybe a victim." Lyra lowered her head, trying to step aside, but they shoved her back against the pillar. Fear rose in her chest. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body froze. The humans noticed the commotion. Ethan frowned and began walking toward the group, his eyes narrowing as he saw the frightened girl surrounded. The Valoran bullies didn't notice him yet. They were too busy laughing, too busy enjoying their cruelty. "Stay away from us," one of them said to Lyra, "or maybe we'll give you a reason to use those teeth of yours." Lyra's hands shook. She wanted to cry, but her tears stayed locked inside. She had lived with this fear her whole life. But now, in that crowded square, something was about to happen. Something that would change her life forever. And in that moment, Ethan's footsteps grew closer. The story of the alien girl and the human had just begun. The city square was alive with sound. Merchants shouted prices, fountains splashed in the sunlight, and travelers from many worlds moved between the stalls. But in the center of it all, Lyra stood pressed against a pillar, surrounded by Valoran youths who mocked her. Their laughter echoed sharper than any blade. Lyra's heart pounded. She wanted to disappear, to fade into the crowd, yet she could not move. Their eyes locked on her, filled with scorn. "What are you doing here, cursed child?" One of them sneered. His voice was loud enough for others to hear. Heads turned. Whispers spread. Soon the market folks stopped their work to watch. Lyra trembled. Her lips stayed tightly closed, hiding the teeth that everyone feared. She thought of her parents' warnings, never bite, never lose control. But fear made her body stiff. Then Ethan, the human, stepped forward. He was taller than most Valorans, his dark hair shining under the twin suns. His steps were calm, but his eyes were steady, filled with quiet strength. "That's enough," Ethan said firmly. His voice carried over the crowd. "Leave her alone." The Valoran bullies turned, surprised. They were used to others avoiding Lyra, not protecting her. "And who are you, outsider?" One of them laughed. "Do you know who she is? Do you know what she can do?" Ethan glanced at Lyra. Her eyes were wide with fear, her body frozen. Then he looked back at the bullies. "I don't care who she is. I see a girl being cornered. That's all I need to know." The crowd gasped. No Valoran had ever spoken so plainly in defense of Lyra. The bullies' faces darkened with anger. "Stay out of this, human," the tallest one warned. "She's dangerous. If you protect her, maybe you deserve what happens." The tension grew heavy. Lyra wanted to shout for Ethan to go away, to save himself, but the words stuck in her throat. The bullies shoved her again, harder this time. Her back hit the pillar and pain shot through her body. Instinct took over. Her mouth opened. Her sharp teeth sank into the nearest arm. The moment was quick, almost too fast to see. She had not meant to bite. Fear had pushed her body before her mind could stop it. But as her teeth broke the skin, venom flowed into her victim. The crowd screamed. Valorans clutched one another, turning away in horror. Everyone knew what that meant. A single bite from Lyra could kill within seconds. But then silence fell. The arm she had bitten was not that of a Valoran. It was Ethan's. He had stepped between her and the bullies at the last second, shielding her with his own body. Lyra's teeth had pierced his skin, and her venom had entered his blood. Ethan looked down at his arm. A faint redness spread from the bite. He blinked, flexed his fingers, then muttered, "Well, that stings." Gasps erupted from the square. Valoran healers rushed forward, expecting him to collapse. Merchants pulled their children back, shielding them as if an explosion was about to happen. The bullies stared, their eyes wide with disbelief. Lyra herself was frozen, her body shaking. She stumbled backward, horrified by what she had done. No, you'll die," she whispered, her voice breaking. Tears filled her eyes. Please, I didn't mean to." But Ethan didn't fall. He didn't even weaken. Instead, he gently touched the wound, winced, and then looked at her with steady calm. "It's all right," he said softly. "I'm fine." The Valoran Council guards arrived, their armor glinting under the suns. They pushed through the crowd, shouting for space. The healers checked Ethan's pulse, examined his skin, and tested for poison. Their hands moved quickly, expecting the signs of organ failure, expecting the human to fade within moments. But every test showed the same answer. Nothing. His body was stable. His breathing was steady. His heart was strong. This is impossible," one healer whispered. "No species can survive her venom, not even with treatment." "Except him," another replied, staring at Ethan with awe. The bullies backed away, fear replacing their pride. They had wanted to humiliate Lyra, but instead, they had witnessed something that defied reason. One of them muttered, He shouldn't be alive." Then they turned and ran, leaving the square in silence. Lyra stood shaking, tears streaming down her face. She had bitten someone for the first time in her life, and he lived. The thoughts spun in her head like a storm. She felt guilt, fear, confusion, and something else she could not name. Ethan approached her slowly. He did not flinch, did not show fear. "Hey," he said gently. You're safe now. Lyra shook her head.
No, I hurt you.
I poisoned you. Ethan gave a small smile. You tried, but it didn't work. The crowd began whispering louder. News spread quickly. The human survived, voices said. Her bite did nothing. People stared at Ethan as if he were made of stone, unbreakable and untouchable. Others looked at Lyra with new eyes, no longer just with fear, but with shock and wonder. The council guards escorted them both to the healer's hall. Ethan walked calmly, though he joked once, "Do you think I need a bandage? I'd hate to stain my uniform." No one laughed, but his light tone eased some of the fear in the air. Inside the hall, the council demanded answers. "What makes the human immune?" one asked. "How can he survive what kills us?" The healers had no answer yet. They spoke of human biology, of strange immune systems, of a history of surviving poisons. But their voices were uncertain. Lyra sat in the corner, her arms wrapped around her knees. She could not stop shaking. Ethan noticed and sat beside her, ignoring the guards' protests. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" Lyra whispered. Her eyes searched his face. "Everyone else is," Ethan thought for a moment. Then he said, "Because I don't see a monster. I see someone who's been alone too long." Her tears fell again, but this time, they carried less fear and more relief. For the first time in her life, someone had stayed beside her after seeing her worst, and for the first time, she dared to hope that maybe she was not cursed after all. The galaxy would soon know the truth. Humans were unlike any species before them. But for Lyra, the most important truth was simpler. She had found a friend who would not run away. The healer's hall was filled with hushed voices. The Valoran council members sat in a circle, their robes glowing under the soft white lamps. Around them, the healers prepared reports, scanning Ethan's blood again and again. No matter how many times they tested, the results stayed the same. Lyra's venom had no effect. Ethan sat calmly on a chair, his arm bandaged only to cover the bite. He moved it easily, showing no weakness. Across the room, Lyra sat quietly, her hands folded tightly in her lap. She still carried guilt. She had bitten him, poisoned him, even if by accident. But what troubled her most was not her guilt. It was her confusion. For her entire life, her venom had been a curse. A single drop could kill a Valoran instantly, and yet this human sat before her, alive, breathing, even smiling. One council member finally spoke. "This cannot be explained. Either your body hides the damage, or your kind is something the galaxy has never seen before." Ethan gave a small shrug. "Maybe both," he said lightly, though his eyes were serious. The head healer, an elderly Valoran with silver markings on her skin, turned to the council. "I believe the answer lies not in mystery, but in their origin. Humans come from a world far harsher than ours." The hall grew quiet. Everyone listened. "Earth," the healer continued, "is what we call a death world. It is a place where storms tear mountains apart, where oceans rise and crush cities, where creatures hunt with claws and venom far deadlier than ours. Even the air is full of sicknesses. To survive there, the human body adapted. They built defenses not just in their minds, but in their blood and cells. Their immune system is not just strong, it is endless. Poisons that kill us may be nothing more than irritants to them." Gasps filled the room. The council exchanged uneasy glances. Some looked at Ethan with new respect. Others looked with fear. "So," one council member whispered, "you mean no venom can kill him?" The healer shook her head. "Not exactly. But where one drop would end any of us, it takes far more to harm a human. Their strength is not in being unbreakable. It is in being difficult to break." Ethan leaned forward. His voice was calm but firm. "We are not here to frighten you. We are here to learn, to share, to live as friends. But yes, humans endure. That is what we do best." The words lingered in the air like a challenge and a promise. Lyra looked at him, her heart heavy with emotion. For the first time, she felt something different from fear. She felt hope. In the days that followed, the news spread quickly. Across Valora, people whispered about the human who survived the deadly bite. Some refused to believe it. Others called it a miracle. Children gathered in groups, pretending to be humans in their games, laughing and pretending that nothing could hurt them. But for Lyra, the change was personal. She no longer walked through the market with her head bowed. People still looked at her with caution, but the fear in their eyes had softened. Some even dared to smile. She was no longer just the cursed child. She was the girl who had bitten a human and failed to harm him. One afternoon, Ethan found her sitting by the glowing river outside the city. She had her knees drawn close, watching the fish swim beneath the surface. When she noticed him, she almost stood, but he raised a hand gently. "Stay," he said. "I thought maybe you'd want company." Lyra hesitated, then nodded. They sat together in silence for a while. The suns dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet. Finally, Lyra spoke. "Do you really feel no fear of me?" she asked quietly. Ethan shook his head. "Fear? No? Respect? Yes, you carry something dangerous, but that doesn't make you dangerous. It makes you careful. I've seen it in your eyes. You never wanted to hurt anyone." Her lips trembled. "But I did hurt you, and I survived," Ethan said simply. "Maybe that's what makes this friendship possible. You are not cursed, Lyra. You were only waiting for someone who could stand beside you without falling." The words sank deep into her heart. She had spent her life hiding, believing she was a danger to everyone, but here, beside a human, she felt free. Soon, the Valoran Council invited Ethan and Lyra to speak before the people. The hall was filled with citizens, their faces curious and uncertain. Ethan stood first. His voice carried across the chamber. "You fear what you do not understand. But sometimes the very thing you fear hides a gift. Humans are not stronger than you in every way. We bleed, we break, we suffer, but we rise again. That is our strength. And that is why your venom did not end me." Then, to everyone's surprise, Lyra stepped forward. Her voice shook at first, but she found courage. "I spent my life in shadows. I believed I was cursed, that my bite made me unworthy of friends or love. But now I see, I am not cursed. I am just different. And being different does not mean being alone." The crowd grew silent. Then slowly applause filled the chamber. For the first time, Lyra felt seen not as a danger, but as a person. That night, as she walked home under the stars, she looked up at the sky. Somewhere above, Earth spun in its wild storms, its oceans roaring and its forests alive with predators. And from that world came the humans, beings who could endure, adapt, and survive where others could not. She smiled softly, her heart lighter than it had ever been. For all her years of isolation, she had finally found someone unafraid to stand beside her. The galaxy had learned a lesson. What could kill any alien might mean nothing to a human. And for Lyra, she had learned something even greater. Sometimes strength is not about the power to harm, but the courage to heal, to trust, and to hope. And in Ethan, she had found not only a protector, but a friend who reminded her that she was never truly alone.